Hello, take a moment and think about your mind. Right now, at this very instant, how does it feel? Is it a space of calm and clarity, or a whirlwind of thoughts, worries, and distractions? In the world we inhabit today, a world saturated with information, social media, constant news, and personal and professional demands, mental chaos has become the norm, not the exception. We live with anxiety, with the constant noise of others' opinions and confusion about our true path. But here's the undeniable truth. You cannot transform your life if you don't first work on bringing order to your mind. Imagine you want to build a beautiful, sturdy house. Would you start erecting walls on unstable foundations, full of cracks and rubble? Of course not. Your mind is that foundation. If it's filled with disorder, erratic thoughts, unmanaged emotions, any effort you make to change your external reality will be in vain. It's like trying to clean a room while the faucet keeps dripping uncontrollably. It's at this point that Stoicism, a philosophy over 2,000 years old, stands as an unparalleled tool. Stoicism is not a recipe for passive resignation or for becoming emotionless. It's a powerful practical guide that teaches you to do exactly that, to order your thoughts, to manage your emotions with wisdom, to filter out external noise, and ultimately, to take full control of your life from the inside out. It teaches you to transform your mind from a battlefield into a sanctuary of peace and purpose. The promise of Stoicism isn't to eliminate life's challenges, but to give you the strength and clarity to face them. It doesn't tell you that you'll never feel anxiety or frustration, but it offers you the tools so that those emotions don't control you. It's a path of inner empowerment that gives you back the reins of your existence. In this space we'll share, I'm going to guide you through 10 fundamental Stoic lessons. These are deep, applicable truths that will help you untangle the knots in your mind, find the clarity you long for, and start living life with intention, not by inertia. Prepare for profound reflection. Prepare for action, because the path to a transformed life begins with an ordered mind. Lesson number 1. Master your inner dialogue. Your mind is a constant space of conversation. I'm not referring to the words you speak aloud, but to that incessant murmur, that inner voice that comments on every situation, judges every action, and projects every fear. What you tell yourself is, in fact, what builds your reality. If that inner voice is filled with chaos, doubts, negativity, self-deception, or relentless criticism, your outer life will inevitably reflect that disorder. Imagine your mind as a room. If you let it fill with random thoughts, constant complaints, regrets about the past, and anxieties about the future, that room will become a dump. How could you find peace or plan anything meaningful amidst such disorder? Ordering your mind, then, begins by cleaning up your inner voice. This doesn't mean suppressing negative thoughts, but rather recognizing them, questioning their truth and usefulness, and consciously choosing which thoughts you will feed. The Stoic knows they cannot prevent a bird from flying over their head, but they can prevent it from nesting in their hair. Similarly, you cannot prevent an intrusive thought from appearing, but you can decide whether to allow it to stay and take root. This is an exercise in constant vigilance. Whenever you find yourself in a destructive inner dialogue, I'm not enough, this is too hard, I'll never succeed, pause, identify that voice. Then, ask yourself, is this true? Does this thought help me? What would a wise mentor say in my place? The key is to actively challenge those self-sabotaging narratives and replace them with a voice of reason, compassion, and truth. Self-awareness is the first weapon. Before you can change your inner dialogue, you must be able to hear it. Dedicate a few minutes each day to simply observe what your mind is telling you. Is it a relentless critic, an endless worrier, an eternal procrastinator? Identify the patterns. Once you identify a recurring negative thought, the next step is cognitive restructuring. Don't try to simply not think about it, because that rarely works. Instead, actively reframe the thought. For example, if your mind says I'm a failure, change it to I made a mistake from which I can learn. This small shift can disarm the power of negativity. Remember that your mind is like a muscle. The more you exercise the conscious choice of your thoughts, the stronger your ability to control your inner narrative becomes. It's not an on-off switch, but a gradual training process. The Stoic practice of differentiation is key here. Separate the objective event from the judgment you place on it. A situation is just a situation until your mind tags it as good or bad. It's your judgment, not the event itself, that disturbs you. By recognizing this, you can begin to question your own labels and, therefore, your inner dialogue. This constant self-examination is not for self-criticism, but for self-correction. It's about aligning your thinking with reason and reality, not with fear or fantasy. This is the path to inner coherence. Master your inner dialogue and you will begin to master your world. Your mind is not a suggestion box, it is your control room. Make sure that the only voices that resonate strongly are those that build you up. Lesson number 2. You are not your emotions. We live in an age that often glorifies giving into emotions, as if every feeling were an undeniable truth that must be blindly followed. But the Stoic knows a crucial truth. You have emotions, but you are not your emotions. Sadness, anger, frustration, fear. They are visitors, not permanent residents. They are chemical and cognitive reactions, information, not your identity. When you don't understand this, you become a slave to your moods. If you feel fear, you become paralyzed. If you feel anger, you react impulsively. If you feel sadness, you sink. Mental disorder rises when you allow your emotions to take the wheel, without a rational driver to guide them. Not everything you feel is true, nor does everything you feel require immediate action. The Stoic learns to observe their emotion without letting it control them. It's like watching a movie. It affects you. You feel the character's emotions, but you know you're sitting in a seat. You're not part of the screen. In the same way, you can feel the surge of anger, but without becoming anger itself. You can recognize sadness, but without allowing it to define you completely. That is the essence of mental order in relation to emotions. Seeing without reacting impulsively. It's creating a space between what you feel and how you respond. This space, that Stoic pause, is where your freedom resides. It's the ability to say, I am feeling X emotion. What is this emotion telling me? Is it useful right now? How can I respond to it in a way that aligns with my reason and my values, instead of being swept away by it? The key is not to suppress the emotion, but to disidentify from it. Imagine your emotion is a wave in the ocean. You are not the wave, you are the ocean, vast and deep, capable of containing and observing all waves without being swept away by any. This metaphor helps you gain perspective. When an intense emotion rises, it often feels like an emergency that demands an immediate response. Stoicism teaches you to create cognitive distance. Recognize the urgency of the feeling, but do not submit to it. Ask yourself, is this a fact or an emotional interpretation? Practice recognition. When you feel an intense emotion, name it. I am feeling frustration. I am feeling fear. Simply the act of naming the emotion can begin to strip it of its overwhelming power. Then, breathe. Observe where you feel it in your body. Allow it to be there without resisting, but without letting it drag you. With practice, that pause will become longer, and your ability to choose your response will strengthen. This emotional mastery is a fundamental pillar for an ordered mind and a life under your control. The radical acceptance of your emotions is a crucial step. Don't judge yourself for feeling. Emotion is a signal, often a messenger. What matters is how you interpret and respond to that message. If you fight the emotion, you only intensify it. If you observe it, you begin to understand it and see that, like a cloud, it will pass. Consider the example of anxiety. When you feel that knot in your stomach, your mind can start creating catastrophic scenarios. But if at that moment you tell yourself, I am feeling anxiety, it's a sensation, it's not a prophecy, and you focus on your breath, you begin to regain control. The emotion is still there, but it no longer dominates you. This training allows you to respond to life with wisdom instead of impulsivity. You can make rational decisions even under emotional pressure because you've learned to separate your judgment from the intensity of the feeling. That is true strength. Lesson number 3. Control what is up to you. Much of the mental disorder, anxiety, and frustration we experience comes from a futile and exhausting attempt to control the uncontrollable. We try to manipulate other people, change the past, predict or force the future, or control outcomes over which we have no direct influence. This is like trying to push a rope. No matter how hard you try, it won't work, and wasted effort only generates chaos in your mind. The Stoics were masters of the dichotomy of control. They divided it into two simple categories: things that are up to you and things that are not up to you. Things not up to you include the weather, other people's opinions, the economy, the outcome of a game, the health of your neighbor, and the passage of time. Things that are up to you are your judgments, your perceptions, your desires, your aversions, your intentions, and your actions. Ordering your mind involves making a clear distinction and then focusing with laser precision only on what you can manage. If you worry about a colleague's opinion, you are trying to control something outside your domain. What you can control is your work, your attitude, your professionalism. If you get frustrated by traffic, you can't change it, but you can control your reaction. Listen to a podcast, practice patience, or simply accept the situation. Every time you encounter a source of mental disorder, Pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then let it go, release that burden. It's easier said than done, I know, but it's training. Repeat the question until your mind learns to let go of what isn't its responsibility. Think of the anxiety generated by waiting for an important response, a job offer, a medical result, someone else's decision. You cannot control the speed of the response or the final decision. However, you can control your patience, your acceptance of uncertainty, and how you use the waiting time to prepare, to distract yourself healthily, to continue moving forward in other areas. This principle releases an immense amount of mental energy. You stop fighting impossible battles and direct your strength to where you can actually make an impact. It's an act of strategic wisdom that allows you to navigate life with much greater serenity and effectiveness. The liberation from useless worry is a direct byproduct of applying this principle. When you stop investing energy in the uncontrollable, that energy becomes available to be used for productive action and the cultivation of your inner peace. It's a recycling of mental energy. Learn to recognize the red flags that indicate you're trying to control the uncontrollable. Recurring frustration over situations that don't change, obsession with what others think or do, anxiety about future events over which you have no power. These are signals to apply the dichotomy of control. By focusing your mental energy solely on your attitude, your actions, and your focus, you regain immense power. You become the architect of your own well-being, rather than being a victim of circumstances. This is a liberating principle that allows you to navigate life with unparalleled calm and efficiency. Consolidating order in your mind. Lesson number 4. The mind needs boundaries. Your mind is not a public dump where anything can enter and stay. It is a sacred space, and to keep it ordered and functional, it needs clear boundaries. Not everything that enters your head serves you. And in fact, much of today's mental chaos comes from an overload and a lack of filtering in what we consume. Ordering your mind also means learning to filter. Think of the avalanche of information you receive daily. Social media full of gossip and comparisons, news that exacerbates fear, toxic conversations, negative environments that drain your energy. If you don't put a conscious filter, all that mental junk accumulates, generating anxiety, doubts, and confusion. Guard what you consume. Be a guardian of your mind. This involves being intentional with your habits, limiting time on social media that doesn't benefit you, selecting your news sources, avoiding conversations that exhaust you, and staying away from environments that subtract from you instead of adding to you. Imagine your mind as your house. Would you leave the door open for anyone to come in and deposit whatever they wanted in your living room? Of course not. You would put locks, establish rules. The same should apply to your mind. Constant exposure to negativity or superficiality is like a slow poisoning. You don't feel the effects immediately, but over time, your perspective becomes distorted, your energy decreases, and your capacity for mental clarity is seriously affected. Your mind, like your body, needs a healthy diet. The Stoics, even without social media, understood the importance of mental health by choice. They distanced themselves from gossips, from constant complainers, from those who sought external validation at all costs. They knew that such interactions contaminated the soul. Setting digital boundaries is a good starting point. Define specific times to check your phone. Choose to follow only accounts that inspire or teach you. And be aware of how you feel after consuming certain types of content. If it leaves you empty or anxious, it's a clear sign you need to filter. This exercise of conscious curation extends to all aspects of your life. What books do you read? What music do you listen to? What TV shows or movies do you consume? Each of them contributes to the feeding of your mind. Choose wisely to nourish, not to intoxicate. Mental clarity rises when you reduce the noise. When you consciously decide what information and influences you allow into your mental space, you free up an immense amount of energy that was previously spent processing and reacting to negativity. Setting boundaries for your mind is an act of self-love and empowerment. Lesson number 5. Clarity comes with silence in the incessant hustle and bustle of modern life. With its constant bombardment of information and distractions, we have lost our connection to one of the greatest allies for mental order: silence. A mind that never stops, that is always busy with external noise or internal chatter, is a mind that doesn't see clearly. It's like trying to see a reflection in agitated water. The Stoic actively seeks moments of pause and reflection to order their thoughts. They understood that true wisdom doesn't reside in the accumulation of more information, but in the ability to process it, digest it, and find meaning in it. And for that, you need silence. Silence is a blank canvas for your mind. It's the space where your thoughts can settle, where emotions can be observed without reacting, where intuition can speak, and where creative solutions can emerge. Sometimes, silence is the best medicine for mental chaos. This doesn't mean you have to retreat to a cave. It means incorporating small moments of intentional silence into your daily life. It could be dedicating 10 minutes each morning to sitting in silence before the world wakes up. It could be taking a walk without your phone, paying attention to the sounds of nature. It could simply be closing your eyes for a minute in the middle of your day to recenter yourself. In today's society, silence is often perceived as an emptiness, something that must be filled with music, podcasts, notifications. But in that constant filling, we lose the ability to listen to ourselves, to connect with our own inner wisdom. External noise turns into internal noise. Great thinkers and leaders throughout history often retreated to moments of solitude and silence to find clarity. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote his meditations in the quiet of his campaigns, seeking to order his thoughts. Consider silence as a gym for your mind. Just as the body needs rest to strengthen, the mind needs moments of stillness to process, consolidate, and cleanse itself of accumulated disorder. Silence allows you to perform an internal audit of your thoughts and emotions. It's an opportunity to observe what's happening in your mind without the distraction of external stimuli, allowing you to identify patterns, recurring worries, and true priorities. Don't underestimate the power of what seems like doing nothing. In quietness, your mind recalibrates, solutions reveal themselves, and your perspective sharpens. It is in these spaces of apparent inactivity that the greatest mental productivity takes place. Clarity isn't something that comes with more information. It comes with less noise. By making silence a regular practice, you'll begin to see things with greater perspective, make decisions with more calm, and experience a mental peace that will allow you to master your life from a place of deep serenity. Lesson number 6. Action is the antidote to mental chaos. Paradoxically, one of the best ways to order your mind is not by sitting and thinking more, but by acting. Excessive analysis, constantly ruminating on a problem without taking any action, is one of the greatest sources of mental chaos and anxiety. It's like trying to solve a puzzle just by looking at it, without touching the pieces. The Stoic knows that, although reflection is crucial, action is the antidote to mental chaos. Inaction begets more doubt, more fear, and more disorder. Movement, on the other hand, generates clarity, momentum, and confidence. Don't think so much. Act. Even if everything isn't clear, you don't need to have the perfect plan to take the first step. In fact, clarity often emerges after you've started moving. It's in the process of doing, trying, failing, and adjusting that the mind begins to organize itself and find solutions. Think of a situation where you felt overwhelmed by a decision. You probably spent hours, perhaps days, turning the problem over in your head. But once you took a small action, made a call, did some research, asked for advice, the fog began to dissipate. Action breaks the cycle of rumination. Analysis paralysis is a common mental trap. The more you think, the less you do. And the less you do, the more uncertain you feel, leading to more overthinking and disorder. Action breaks this vicious loop. You don't need a perfect master plan for every step of your life. Life is too complex for that. What you need is the courage to take the first step and the flexibility to adjust your course as you go. Action provides you with real feedback from the world, which is much more useful than any mental speculation. The discipline of action is a muscle that strengthens with each use. At first, it might be incredibly hard to start a task, but each time you do, you not only advance in the task, but you also strengthen your ability to overcome mental inertia. This proactive approach also protects you from victimization. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the problem, you become the agent of your own solution. That sense of agency is fundamental for mental order. Order is also built by doing. Every small action, however insignificant it may seem, is another brick in the building of your mental clarity. If you feel overwhelmed by a big project, break it down into tiny tasks and do the first one. That simple act of starting breaks paralysis and generates a sense of progress. The mind is ordered not only by thinking less, but by doing more. Lesson number 7. Not every thought deserves your attention. Your brain is an tireless thought factory, producing thousands of them every day. But here's the key to mental order. Not all of those thoughts are valuable, nor do they deserve your attention, much less your energy. Many are noise, distractions, irrational fears, automatic judgments, or simply echoes of past experiences. If you give the same importance to a creative thought about your future, as you do to an anxious worry about something you can't control, or to a destructive inner criticism. Your mind will become filled with disorder. It's like an orchestra conductor giving equal weight to every instrument, regardless of whether they are out of tune or playing a meaningless melody. The result is cacophony. Learning to ignore thoughts that sabotage you is a fundamental Stoic skill. Mental order is also about selection. It's not about suppression, but about recognizing these thoughts for what they are, mere mental formations, and then consciously choosing not to engage with them. Imagine your thoughts are clouds passing across the sky of your mind. You can observe them, recognize they are there, but you don't have to cling to each one or fly with it. Some thoughts are storms, others are breezes. The Stoic chooses which clouds to analyze and which to simply let pass. The problem isn't negative thoughts themselves, but our reaction to them. When we cling to them, overanalyze them, or let them dictate our mood, we give them power. Learning to observe them with detachment is the first step to stripping them of that power. This skill is developed with daily mindfulness practice. When you find yourself caught in a loop of useless thoughts, focus on your breathing, on the sounds around you, on your senses. This helps your mind return to the present and break the cycle of rumination. Consider your thoughts as guests in your mental house. Some are welcome and you attend to them. Others are noisy street vendors trying to sneak in. You learn to say no, thank you, and close the door without letting them interrupt you. Conscious distraction is also a useful tool. If a thought is intrusive and doesn't serve you, you can deliberately redirect your attention to a productive task, to reading, or to an activity that requires your focus. This is not repression, but active management of your attention. Your time and mental energy are finite resources. Don't waste them feeding thoughts that weaken you or distract you from your goals. By learning to discern and release mental noise, you free up space for clarity, concentration, and inner peace. That is the art of selection on the path to mastering your mind. Lesson number 8. Learn to let go of the past. An inexhaustible source of mental disorder, regret, and self-punishment is the tendency to live anchored in what has already happened. We relive mistakes, lament lost opportunities, cling to resentments, or torment ourselves with what we could have done differently. But the past, by its very nature, is immutable. You cannot change it, no matter how much you replay it in your mind. Stoicism does not seek to erase the past or deny its impact. On the contrary, it invites us to use it as a teacher and then move forward. The past is a library of lessons, not a prison of regrets. The only use the past has is to teach you for the present and the future. To order your mind, you need a process of letting go of the past. This involves several crucial steps. Forgive yourself. We all make mistakes. Acknowledge your faults. Take responsibility for your part, but then free yourself from paralyzing guilt. Constant self-punishment only keeps you stuck. Accept what happened. Reality is as it is. Fighting against it only prolongs suffering. Learn. Extract valuable lessons from your past experiences. What did that mistake teach you? How can you apply that wisdom in the present? And finally, let go. Release the need to control or change it. Resentment and bitterness are chains that bind you to the past. They prevent you from moving forward, steal your energy, and deprive you of the joy of the present. Letting go of the past is not forgetting. It is choosing freedom. This liberation doesn't happen overnight. It's a conscious and repeated act of redirecting your mind from what if to what now. It's recognizing that your power lies in how you respond to the consequences of the past and the present, not in changing the past itself. Every time you find yourself reliving a painful moment or a past mistake, pause. Tell yourself, this has already happened. It no longer has power over my present, unless I give it power. Then, redirect your attention to a constructive action in the now. The acceptance of what cannot be changed is a Stoic cornerstone. The past is the realm of the unalterable. By accepting it, you stop expending mental energy on what you cannot influence and redirect it to where you do have agency. The present. Practice gratitude for the lessons. Even the most painful experiences of the past may have taught you something valuable, shaped your character, or directed your path in an unexpected way. Recognizing these lessons transforms lament into learning. By letting go of the weight of the past, you open up space in your mind for creativity, gratitude, and present action. Mental order is not forgetting, but transforming your relationship with what was. The Stoic knows that their power resides in the now, and the now is the only moment you can act to build your future. Lesson number 9. Focus on the essential in a world that bombards us with infinite options, tasks, and distractions. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and lose focus when everything seems urgent. The reality is that nothing is. A disordered mind is one that scatters in 1,000 directions. trying to do too many things at once and, in the end, achieving little of value. Ordering your mind means prioritizing what is truly important. It involves the ability to discern between the essential and the trivial, between the urgent and the important, and then to dedicate your energy and attention to what truly brings you closer to your deepest values and goals. The Stoics practiced simplicity as a lifestyle. It wasn't just about living with fewer material possessions, but also about simplifying their thoughts and actions. They believed that clarity and peace of mind rose from focusing on a limited number of things that were within their control and that were truly meaningful. Conduct an audit of your life. What are you spending your time, energy, and attention on? Does that align with your most important values and goals? If the answer is no, it's time to prune. Eliminate distractions. Delegate what you can. Learn to say no, as we saw in a previous lesson, to everything that is not essential. The overload of options and the feeling of having to do everything is a recipe for mental exhaustion and paralysis. Stoicism invites you to an intentional life, where every activity, every commitment, is chosen with purpose, not out of inertia or fear of missing out. True efficiency is not about doing more things, but about doing the right things. This requires discipline to say no to the good in order to say yes to the excellent. It's an act of courage in a world that constantly pushes you towards dispersion. To apply this, you can use tools like the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately, or the Eisenhower matrix, classify tasks by urgency and importance. But beyond the tools, there is the mindset, the conscious decision to protect your focus. Clarity of purpose is the lighthouse that guides you. When you know what is truly essential for you, decision-making becomes simplified, and the noise of distractions becomes easier to ignore. Your energy is concentrated like a laser. This principle helps you avoid decision fatigue. By reducing the number of options and tasks you consider important, you free your mind from the stress of choosing and allow for greater fluidity in your daily life. Simplicity is a powerful virtue. By simplifying your external life, you simplify your internal world. You allow yourself to dedicate your energy to what truly builds value and meaning. Mental order is not about doing more, but about doing what is right with fewer distractions. Lesson number 10. Remember that time is limited. This is the last lesson, and perhaps the most powerful of all for ordering your mind. The awareness of death. The famous Stoic memento mori is not a concept to depress us, but a radical tool to focus our minds, to live with intention, and to free ourselves from lethargy and procrastination. You are not here to think endlessly, to worry about trivialities, or to drift aimlessly. You are here to live with intention, to act with purpose, and to build a life worth living. And for that, you need to order your mind and make the most of the time you have been granted. Every day you live is a gift, but also one less day in your time account. If you live as if you were eternal, you allow yourself the luxury of postponing your dreams, of not forgiving, of not learning, of not changing. But the truth is that life is uncertain and finite. There is no guarantee of a perfect tomorrow or that I'll have time later. The awareness of death forces you to prioritize. When you understand that your time is limited, small complaints fade away, distractions lose their appeal, and important decisions become urgent. It pushes you to focus on what truly matters: your character, your relationships, your contributions, and your own growth. Memento mori is not an invitation to pessimism, but to active optimism. It is a reminder that every day is a precious opportunity to build the life you desire, to love those who matter to you, and to live according to your highest principles. It is a call to action, not inaction. Think about what would truly matter to you if you knew you had little time left. Would it be that trivial discussion on social media? That fear of trying? That procrastination on your biggest dream? The finitude of life is the great clarifier. This principle empowers you to stop worrying about trivialities and to embrace the greatness of your own existence. It helps you order your mind by eliminating the noise of the irrelevant, and by focusing on what has deep and lasting meaning. The inherent urgency in the awareness of death endows you with unmatched motivation. You stop waiting for inspiration or mood and simply act, knowing that every moment is a finite gift. This principle also frees you from the fear of failure, rejection, or ridicule. If death is the inevitable end, what importance does a small stumble or someone else's opinion hold? It allows you to take calculated risks and live with a boldness that once seemed unthinkable. Order your mind so you don't waste the only thing you cannot regain: time. Free your mind from regret for the past and anxiety for what is to come, so you can invest your energy in the only moment you have power: the present. Life is too short to live with a disordered mind, with fear of not being enough or of not trying. The awareness of your finitude is your greatest liberator. Use it to live boldly and with a completely present mind. We've covered a deep path, exploring these 10 powerful Stoic lessons to order your mind and transform your life. We talked about mastering your inner dialogue to clean the voice that either builds or destroys you. We learned to remember that you are not your emotions, but an observer capable of managing them. We understood the liberation of controlling only what is up to you and letting go of the rest. We saw the need for your mind to have boundaries, filtering out the toxic content you consume. We discovered how clarity comes with silence, the space for deep reflection. We realized that action is the antidote to mental chaos, moving forward despite doubts. We recognized that not every thought deserves your attention, learning to select. We embraced the need to let go of the past, forgiving and learning. We prioritized focusing on the essential, simplifying your life. And finally, we confronted the truth that time is limited, using it as a beacon to live with intention. Now, the most important part, don't just stay with these words. Choose at least 1 or 2 of these lessons and start applying them today, at this very moment. Start small, but start. Transformation is not a destination, but a constant journey, and every small step of mental order is a step towards a fuller and more purposeful life. Because I want you to remember this, not as a pretty phrase, but as an undeniable truth for your life. Your mind is like a room. Either you order it, or it fills with things you don't need, and in disorder, nothing flourishes.